Good morning. Happy Wednesday. Good to see all of you. Got some good news yesterday. Bitcoin ETF is kind of approved, right? Not really approved, but kind of. So thank you for actually stating that in the chat, Mr. Sox fan. Appreciate you, buddy. I was just reading that a second ago. But yeah, it's not like a full approval, but they do have some good news. They cannot deny their I guess they can't object, I guess, the ETF the way they have been doing it, right? So it's huge news for Bitcoin. The whole ETF thing, it's just a matter of time this thing gets approved. So super excited about it. We're going to go over everything today. There's a bunch of news. Again, as always, I try to gather all of the information and put it down in the description below. So welcome back to the Daily Grind. If you guys haven't been here before, please consider subscribing and hitting that like button. Let's go check out the market today, and then we'll get into saying hi to everybody in the chat. Let's see what we got. Bitcoin looks like 27,387, very deep green today. It's nice to see it jumping up quite a bit. I bought something, like I said, at 25, so I'm happy of that purchase as of right now. Ethereum 1718, not too bad, up 4.75%. We have Dogecoin and Litecoin at 67 for Litecoin, 6.5 cents for Doge. Only a matter of time for Dogecoin to start pumping, because if you guys haven't heard, there has been an approval as well, or the license approval for Twitter, well, X, formerly known as Twitter, to be able to allow crypto as payments. So that's actually a huge plus as well. There's been a lot going on in the market. So let's see who is in the chat real quick. Mr. Rudputs, as always, appreciate you. And sorry I didn't see your members chat yesterday, but I appreciate you for being a member, buddy. Thank you so much. All track, what's up, buddy? Leo Lustig, Fudweiser. Let's see who else is here. Patty Whack Miner, what's up, buddy? Chris Hanley, Techman Ty, All Set Miner, Steven Cicero, good to see you, buddy. Duke Nukem, Nick K, dude, you guys are awesome. Appreciate all of you guys. Crypto Frank, good morning. Haven't seen you in a bit. Good morning, buddy. Dan R, yeah, BTC jumped like 2K in like 1 minute yesterday. Yeah, you know what? I was thinking about that actually. I'm like, do you think that these people that are in the courthouse listening to this type of stuff, like in the back, are like texting people like, hey, buy Bitcoin right now, the thing just went through? Do you think that's what happens? Because it's got to be something going on like that, because it comes out so fast and the market just pumps as soon as it comes out. Let's see, Tim I Am Crypto, good morning, made it for the live, appreciate you, buddy. All right, let's check out crypto bubbles. We have a daily rug pull. Let's see, this is on the week. On the day, everything is up. Everything. Wow, look at that. Not too bad. STX, TON, VCH, STX, Stacks. I've heard of this. I don't invest in it though. TON, man, I haven't heard of TON coin in a while. TON coin's been like off the radar, I feel like, but there it is. Everything's green. Everything, literally. Even this bullshit. Terra Luna Classic, ridiculous. Anyways, what do we got? Top 10 coins, coin market cap. Let's check before we check the Fear and Greed Index. We have Bitcoin, Bitcoin, Ethereum, Tether, BNB, XRP, USD Coin, Lido Stakes, Ether, Cardano, Dogecoin, Solana, and Litecoin's in 15th. Nothing's really changed, to be honest. Everything looks exactly the same as yesterday. So we're getting there, guys. We're getting there. All right, I'm gonna try not to blind you. Fear and Greed Index looking at 49. Pretty much neutral. Not too bad. All right, let's get into this. So first, we're gonna start with Crypto Worlds. Or CNBC's Crypto World, rather. They just kind of go over everything, talk about the lawsuit a little bit, and yeah, then we'll get into some other little news clips and Altcoin Daily and all that stuff. Again, everything's in the description below if you guys are interested. Let's get into this without further ado. Let's do it.
Today, Bitcoin rockets higher after Grayscale scores a huge victory in its court battle against the SEC. And Dave Weisberger of CoinRoots walks us through whether that court decision means we're just weeks away from the first spot Bitcoin ETF in the US.
Big news, guys, big news. Only a matter of time.
Welcome to CNBC's Crypto World. I'm Mackenzie Sigalos. Crypto markets in rally mode this morning after a new ruling from the DC Court of Appeals strikes a major blow to the SEC's denial of spot Bitcoin ETFs. We'll tell you more about that ruling in just a second, but first, by noon Eastern, Bitcoin topped $27,000. Ether climbed to more than $1,700, and XRP, which recently scored its own victory against the SEC, rose to 53 cents. Okay, let's first talk about a couple other stories you should know about. First up, DCG just reached an agreement in principle with creditors of its subsidiary Genesis. According to a court ruling filed on Tuesday morning, the deal includes a new loan repayment plan for $630 million in unsecured loans that were due back in May, along with $1.1 billion that were due by 2032. All told, the filing says the deal could help unsecured creditors recoup around 70 to 90% of their assets. Genesis halted withdrawals back in November after the collapse of FTX, but avoided bankruptcy until mid-January. Next, the SEC took its first enforcement action involving NFTs. The agency reached a $6.1 million settlement with Impact Theory LLC, a Los Angeles-based media company that raised nearly $30 million in Ether from NFT investors.
And this is a perfect example of why you want to be an LLC, by the way. Sorry for cutting that off like super quick, but an LLC separates you from like the business from your personal assets and stuff, so they can't personally sue the guy that is, you know, the owner of Impact Theory. They just kind of sue Impact Theory and him as like the manager, owner, or whatever. But this is the exact reason why you want to set up an LLC if you're going to be doing things like, you know, like he's doing here, selling NFTs, all that kind of stuff.
The company suggested those investors would reap massive returns based on its future success and claimed to, quote, do whatever it takes to make sure that that is true. It also claimed to be trying to build the next Disney. In a statement on X, formerly known as Twitter, Impact Theory's co-founder Tom Bellew said the company is pleased to announce its settlement with the SEC, but disappointed that, quote, the SEC has chosen to broadly question the exciting technical innovations that make digital assets possible through the lens of the securities law. This news also comes a week after a former OpenSea manager was sentenced to 3 months on an NFT-related insider trading case. All right, let's talk about that ruling in the case between Grayscale and the SEC. The DC Court of Appeals just sided with Grayscale, which sued the regulator over its denial of a plan to convert the Grayscale Bitcoin Trust into an ETF. The court said the regulator, quote, failed to adequately explain why it approved the listing of 2 Bitcoin futures ETPs, but not Grayscale's proposed Bitcoin ETP. The court also said that unlike treatment of these products was unlawful. Grayscale called the ruling a monumental step forward, while the SEC said it was reviewing the decision to determine next steps. Now, this ruling could have huge implications for both Grayscale and the long list of spot Bitcoin ETF proposals in front of the SEC. To learn more about what all this means, I spoke to Dave Weisberger, the CEO of CoinRoots. Big ruling today. What is the significance for Grayscale?
Well, the significance for Grayscale is that they will almost certainly have the ability to convert their Bitcoin trust to an ETF, and potentially some of the other trusts that they're doing could go in that direction. There's a lot of assets in the Grayscale ETF, and so if they are approved at around the same time as BlackRock and Fidelity, that gives them a chance to keep their business going forward. Whereas if this decision had gone the other way, or if it had taken longer, or if the SEC had approved other applications first, then they would have been lagging, and they might have seen their assets flow out once it all came down. But interestingly, ETFs are nowhere near as profitable as closed-end trusts. So, you know, in a kind of strange way, the longer it takes for the conversion, probably the better off they are.
Meanwhile, the SEC just put out a statement saying that they're weighing their next steps legally. Could this potentially get kicked up to the Supreme Court? What do next steps look like here?
The reality is the SEC looking at their options is just a political saving face strategy. Effectively, I don't believe they're going to be Don Quixote, the famous aphorism of, tilting at windmills for people who do things that have zero chance of success. There's no chance that this Supreme Court would overturn this decision for a lot of reasons. And if you look at the decision, it was a resounding thumping. The court literally rejected every one of the SEC's arguments. So they have zero probability of that. So their options really boil down to 2 things. Option 1 is they could, if they were so inclined, withdraw the futures ETFs and basically say, oh, no, we didn't really want to do this, and have no Bitcoin ETF out there, which I believe would be close to political suicide at this point. That'd be the kind of thing that would just be really a bad look. Or two, what they can do is delay a little bit on Grayscale and approve BlackRock and Fidelity and some of the other ETFs which have information sharing agreements, and in fact just challenge Grayscale to do the same thing. I think that is much more likely. So what will ultimately happen here is, it's a virtual certainty now that within the next several months, we will have approved spot Bitcoin ETFs, which give the SEC a political win, because, Gensler could make the statement, and he'd be accurate, that by doing what he's done, he's gotten some oversight of the Bitcoin spot markets, even though Bitcoin is not a security. And he does that with these information sharing agreements. So he could take that win. I think he will do that. I think he will do exactly that.
Of course he will. He'll try to make it look like he's, he's the winner here, not everybody else.
In a timeline of a couple months, when will we have a better sense of when, Grayscale's conversion to an ETF could actually happen?
Well, I think that there's a couple of cross currents here. First is, they don't have to respond immediately. They can weigh their options. They can look at what they're doing. There are deadlines that are coming up that are shorter term in September, with other ETFs that have been approved, that have been denied, or that have been filed for. So my guess is after everyone gets back from the holidays, I think the SEC will assess. I would be actually unsurprised if Bitcoin ETF approvals don't start next month. Grayscale may not be in the first one. Maybe it will be in the first one. As I said before, it's possible that Grayscale isn't really going to push on time. They simply want certainty of what's going to happen.
Which applications are coming due in September? Are we looking at BlackRock, Fidelity, or another tranche of?
Yeah, I think it's not that they're coming due. I think there is an initial point, because there's a 45-day thing where the SEC could respond. The SEC could certainly delay those again. They've been doing that for years, but they have the opportunity to respond. And I think there are people who think that mid-September, the BlackRock, and I believe Fidelity as well, and I think ARK Invest are coming up, where the SEC could say something on any of these things. Plus, the SEC could just basically say, yeah, you know what, let's do this, and do it with a press release and try to make it a political win as opposed to a political loss. And that could happen.
Right. And that's so true. So they only have also until, I think the maximum they can push this thing out to is the beginning of January, if I'm not mistaken, of 2024.
Happen at almost any time. Frankly, they could do so tomorrow, although I would be stunned if they did so.
Crypto markets celebrating this news. We're seeing this surge up in a lot of major cap coins, Bitcoin leading those gains. What do you expect to see in terms of how this ruling will ripple into the crypto markets in the weeks ahead? Is this a short-lived exuberance? Because we saw a similar run-up when BlackRock put in its application in June. A lot of crypto tokens came off those highs. So where are we headed next?
Well, honestly, I think that we're looking at a slow, sustained rally that could get very interesting. The market has been leaning short ever since the BlackRock exuberance kind of faded, and people were waiting for a catalyst. The market has been incredibly boring. We saw what happened, what was it, a week and a half ago, where it looked like a momentum ignition, triggering of liquidation strategy happened that knocked Bitcoin from 29,000 down to 26. And it then, since then, is traded at 26 the same way it was trading at 29, i.e. large, patient buyers sitting in the market with lots of speculators moving in and out. The speculators had gone, pretty obviously towards more of short positioning. Well, those large patient buyers were waiting for this sort of thing, but will they start chasing? They'll only start chasing when they feel they have to. And that doesn't happen very quickly. So what you will probably see is a punctuated wall of worry rally, punctuated by varying times where people decide they want to try to run ahead. Bitcoin always goes up, it fades, and then continues. So I suspect to see this is the beginning of a bull market phase for Bitcoin that will be more sustainable. But obviously, if the SEC decides to punt and delay again till January, things will slow down. But
yeah, there it is.
Definitely the trend is in the right direction at this point.
So much of crypto policy in the US has been set through these court decisions, this idea of regulation by enforcement by the SEC. We have seen some movement on Capitol Hill, bills making it farther than they ever had before, getting voted out of committee to a vote on the main floor. Where does Congress fit into the whole ETF debate? Are they completely beside the point at this stage, and it's really just being decided by the courts?
That's a good question.
I think that is a great question.
It's a great question because, like, isn't Congress the ones that were giving Gensler the friggin', the bullshit? I forget the guy's name. The guy that was dressed like Pee Wee Herman in yesterday's video. I forget, but he was giving Gensler so much shit. I'm pretty sure he's part of Congress, right? So that's yeah, that was a great question.
I suspect that the staffers and Representative Richie Torres are probably doing cartwheels today because, look, politicians, I tweeted that they're the ultimate paper hands, right? Politicians go with the flow. They go with poll data. If Bitcoin becomes more legitimized in portfolios of the average American via their financial advisors, their RIAs, their mutual funds, you can bet that the politicians who have been stonewalling the FIT Act, and by the way, it was passed out of committee to the floor with 6 different Democrats voting for it, including Representative Torres. And there, on the Senate side, you have both Kirsten Gillibrand on the Democrat side and Cynthia Lummis co-authoring the bill there. I think you will find gathering momentum to have some level of regulation that is intelligent for crypto. Because let's be fair, the crypto industry does not want the Wild West, but the crypto industry doesn't want the SEC to enforce 80-year-old rules that don't work for modern technology. So what we want, certainly at CoinRoutes, we care about this a great deal. We want intelligent, principles-based regulation to protect investors and to do things. And I think that position will absolutely start to gain majority share if a Bitcoin ETF is approved and Bitcoin becomes more and more mainstream.
Okay, that's all for Crypto World today, but
Absolutely amazing. Shout out to Crypto World for that video. All right, let's get into a couple other clips from CNBC. U.S. Appeals Court rules in favor of Grayscale over Bitcoin ETF dispute with the SEC. This is just like a 5-minute clip, and then we have another one that's like 2 minutes, and we'll get into Altcoin Daily. Let's do it.
We're back and we're following new developments in the crypto world today as a U.S. federal court paves the way for the first ever Bitcoin ETF. Bob Pisani here at Post 9 with the details. It only makes sense that you do this as the host of ETF Edge. I mean, you know more about this space than anybody.
Well, it's an exciting development, and this may be a really big development here. So we had a D.C. court ruled in favor of Grayscale.
Real quick, Mr. Rud Puts, thank you for the €249 super chat.
Eagle, Smeagol AI, Mine RVN, and Get Rich AF. Swag.
Thanks, buddy. Appreciate you very much.
Challenging the SEC decision to deny allowing them to convert their Bitcoin trust to an ETF. This was a big court case. The D.C. court agreed with Grayscale, and they said the Bitcoin exchange traded product is materially similar to the Bitcoin futures exchange products that the SEC had already approved. The court said, I'm quoting here from the court case, the denial of Grayscale's proposal was arbitrary and capricious because the commission failed to explain its different treatment of similar products. The court concluded that the NYSE ARCA had presented substantial evidence that Grayscale is similar across the relevant regulatory factors to Bitcoin futures ETPs. The commission failed to adequately explain why it approved the listing of 2 Bitcoin futures but not Grayscale's proposed Bitcoin ETP. In the absence of a coherent explanation, this unlike regulatory treatment of like products is unlawful. That's a pretty harsh condemnation here. So where does this leave a spot Bitcoin ETF? Well, it certainly puts pressure on the SEC. Now, recall that ARC's application for a spot Bitcoin ETF was published in the Federal Register on May 15th. Now, they've got a maximum time of 240 days, the SEC, to approve or deny the application. That would put maximum time January 10, 2024.
There it is, January 10th, 2024. That's what I thought. Man, the SEC is just making themselves look stupid at this point.
Other applications in from BlackRock, Van Eck, Invesco, and others. So what's next? It doesn't necessarily mean we will get approval of a spot Bitcoin ETF soon. The SEC could appeal. That's potential. And there are potential other issues around custody, for example. My sense is I've read this pretty carefully.
I'm sure you have.
It's pretty harsh. And so, yes, they could appeal. My sense is it's so harsh that they'd have to come back with some pretty strong arguments, and they may decide simply not to appeal at this point.
Well, I mean,
they could put it away for up until January potentially, but an appeal becomes less likely because it's so harsh.
If it gets approved, I mean, theoretically, it just opens the floodgates for these products.
Yes.
From anybody and everybody who is in that business.
Yes, and there are 7 or 8 that are out there. I'll tell you what happened here. They got caught up in their own logic. They were under pressure to approve a Bitcoin ETF. They didn't want to because the concerns about manipulation on these Bitcoin exchanges, legitimate concern. So they said, okay, we're not doing that, but we're going to approve a Bitcoin futures ETF. And the court saw through that. The court said, these are like products. You approve one, it didn't approve the other. You can't hide behind the idea that this is a regulated product because it's a futures product. The court saw through that, and that was the logic trap. The tragedy is it doesn't make these concerns about manipulation on the exchanges go away. Those issues are still there. The court just said, you're precluded. You already approved the futures one.
Let's get Josh. What's your take here? I know you have one because you've talked about this in the past.
I would say the most interesting immediate reaction to this is the rally in Coinbase. For me, that 15% rally, I think it was up as much as 17% today, is very counterintuitive, because if you introduce a retail-friendly product that can be held in normal brokerage accounts in a wrapper that every retail investor knows how to use, like a Bitcoin spot ETF, especially if you end up with 7 of them, including something from Fidelity, something from BlackRock, Van Eck will do one, etc. If that happens, what does anyone honestly need to use Coinbase for if they're primarily doing Bitcoin and ETH, which is basically the whole market cap of crypto right now? So that stock rallying is strange unless it's short covering because people think it means the SEC is running out of steam and momentum and will maybe be curtailed from bringing more suits. I'm not a lawyer, so I have no opinion on that, but my best guess is volumes for Coinbase quarter over quarter, I think are like 50 billion to 20 billion. I don't think that gets better with the introduction of 7 new Bitcoin ETFs. I think it actually gets worse. So that's an interesting counterintuitive move to just bring out here.
Jimmy, what's your take?
How do you guys think about that, actually? So, like, with the Coinbase stock rallying because of the news, I would think that's, you know, not, I wouldn't expect it to go down or not move at all. I mean, that's a good thing, right? Because the SEC is going after Coinbase at the same time. So if they're losing against the ETF stuff, why wouldn't they start losing against Coinbase, and why wouldn't Coinbase stock rise? That's just my take on that. I don't know. So this guy's obviously seeing it different, but with the ETF being approved, also it's going to allow so many more people into the space where Coinbase is inevitably, or you know, exchanges are inevitably going to get more people into them to purchase Bitcoin to actually hold physically themselves instead of just having the ETF, because with the ETF you don't physically own that Bitcoin. It is just in the ETF or in the stock exchange. It's not going to be in your wallet, in your pocket, like not your keys, not your crypto type deal. So when people start waking up to that thing, it's going to force people to the actual exchanges. Do you know what I'm saying? I mean, that's my opinion on it.
Okay.
I think Bob pointed out one of the big things that this doesn't solve is the manipulation. It doesn't solve some other issues as well. The fact that it's used often in ransomware. The fact that there is actually an infinite supply of cryptocurrencies out there. I mean, this is still not something I would invest in. All this does.
There is not a infinite supply of Bitcoin, though.
Is make speculation easier.
All right, well, apparently that was the end. Anyways, but yeah, that doesn't mean, I don't know. I would assume Coinbase stock would go up because of that news. I don't know. That's just me. All right, let's check this out. So this is another brief little clip, 2.5 or so minutes, almost 3 minutes. Let's do it.
Welcome back to Squawk on the Street. Let's get to Kate Rooney with this news alert in the crypto space. Hey, Kate.
Hey, Carl, so we've got some forward momentum here. For a spot Bitcoin ETF, we're just getting news that a D.C. Court of Appeals sided with Grayscale in its lawsuit against the SEC. This was after the agency denied Grayscale's application to convert its Grayscale Bitcoin Trust, that's GBTC, into a Bitcoin ETF. Check out shares of GBTC. Looks like they're up about 15% or so. This fund had really traded at a discount to Bitcoin amid fears that the fund would need to be wound down potentially if this ETF application wasn't improved. You can see it surging today on this news. Coinbase also, which is listed as a partner in a lot of these Bitcoin ETFs, it's up double digits as well. up more than 14% at this point. Bitcoin getting a pop here as well. It could pave the way, guys, for the first of its kind ETF here. Analysts have seen this as a way to really open up the floodgates to retail traders. It would allow the everyday investor to get access to Bitcoin in a brokerage account, for example, and make it easier to allocate to crypto. We do have a statement, guys, from Grayscale as well. They say, in part, this is monumental and a monumental step forward for American investors, the Bitcoin ecosystem, and all those who have been advocating for Bitcoin exposure through the added protections of the ETF wrapper. They go on to say the Grayscale team and legal advisors are actively reviewing the details outlined in the court's opinion. They're going to be pursuing next steps, they say, with the SEC. Grayscale, not the only one here with the Bitcoin ETF. You've got, or application rather, you've got BlackRock and Fidelity also in line. And this has been seen as a major catalyst for prices. Bitcoin in particular, the cryptocurrency has really been trading sideways this year as volume drops and a lot of retail investor interest has slowed down along with prices. Back to you.
Kate, a key part here seems to be the Commission's unexplained discounting of the obvious financial and mathematical relationship between the spot and futures markets falls short of the standard for reasoned decision making. That's from the decision. Can you explain what that means to our viewers?
Well, so one of the things they worried about, or they said that they worried about, was market manipulation. And the argument has been that they've already approved a futures ETF. They've gone back and tried to solve things like surveillance and added new partners. So the argument by Grayscale and others has been, we have solved the issues in terms of market manipulation and what the SEC has said are the issues here. And you've approved a futures ETF. So essentially, it's not that different. And that has been the argument from the crypto bulls and from Grayscale in particular. So that's my reading of it. But there has been a lot of hand-wringing over why the SEC has not approved this, because it would be potentially safer wrapper to offer to retail investors versus getting exposure elsewhere.
So that's clearly this lady saw through the the whole thing, and the reason why Coinbase is actually pumping up a little bit. We're going to, so right now I want to get into Altcoin Daily. He's going to talk about the whole thing as well. He's going to kind of grab clips from other news articles and Elon Musk and X getting the approval to use crypto as payments. So we're going to go through that, and then we're going to get into Anthony Pompliano. He actually made a good video yesterday and talks about why so much is going to rush into Bitcoin when this ETF gets approved. It's kind of crazy. So I think that's important to at least listen to. Real quick, Cape Cod Crypto, thanks for being a member for 2 months, man. He said, who's buying more BTC before the ETF approvals? Are we waiting out the historic September slump? So I purchased some 2 weeks ago, and I planned on purchasing more if it dropped more. So I want to see what happens in September. That's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to wait. But that's just me. You guys obviously don't invest more than you can afford to lose, but you should definitely. I mean, now is getting to be a good time to purchase. So again, Altcoin Daily right here. If you guys have any questions, feel free to ask in the chat. We'll pause and talk about it during. And yeah, no further ado, let's do it. If I would hit the right button.
We're back and we're following new developments in the crypto world today as a U.S. federal court paves the way for the first ever Bitcoin ETF.
The first Bitcoin ETF could be coming soon as court rules in favor of Grayscale over the SEC.
So you're telling me there's a chance?
The District of Columbia Court of Appeals has paved the way for Bitcoin exchange-traded funds. Let me explain to you exactly what happened here. The SEC loses, Grayscale wins. The SEC had previously rejected Grayscale's Bitcoin spot ETF application to turn their trust into a spot ETF. The SEC did not have legitimate reasons for rejecting this. The DC Court of Appeals rules that the SEC's denial of an ETF was, quote, arbitrary and capricious. Bitcoin spot ETF approval is now closer than ever before.
I'll tell you what happened here. They got caught up in their own logic. They were under pressure to approve a Bitcoin ETF. They didn't want to because the concerns about manipulation on these Bitcoin exchanges. Legitimate concern. So they said, okay, we're not doing that, but we're going to approve a Bitcoin futures ETF. And the court saw through that. The court said, these are like products. You approve one, it didn't approve the other. You can't hide behind the idea that this is a regulated product because it's a futures product. The court saw through that, and that was the logic trap. The DC court agreed with Grayscale, and they said the Bitcoin exchange traded product is materially similar to the Bitcoin futures exchange products that the SEC had already approved. The court said, I'm quoting here from the court case, the denial of Grayscale's proposal was arbitrary and capricious because the commission failed to explain its different treatment of similar products. The court concluded that the NYSE archive had presented substantial evidence that Grayscale is similar across the relevant regulatory factors to Bitcoin futures ETPs. The commission failed to adequately explain why it approved the listing of two Bitcoin futures but not Grayscale's proposed Bitcoin ETP. In the absence of a coherent explanation, this unlike regulatory treatment of like products is unlawful. That's a pretty harsh condemnation here. So where does this leave a spot Bitcoin ETF? Well, it certainly puts pressure on the SEC.
The courts have spoken. Between Ripple winning their suit and now Grayscale winning their suit, Gary Gensler and the SEC look like absolute clowns. Take a look. These are the spot Bitcoin ETF applications on file. Now we can add Grayscale here.
Oh, here it is.
And understand what this court case means. It doesn't mean that any one of these got approved. I know everybody's waiting for the BlackRock ETF, and believe me, I'm bullish. What this means is that any of these applications, whether it's on their first deadline, second deadline, third deadline, final deadline, are that much more closer and likely to get approved. By the way, make sure you subscribe to our channel. Daily videos just like this.
Yeah, guys, hit that like button. Appreciate you for hanging out. 80 people here, 29 likes.
If you're interested in making money in cryptocurrency, subscribe to our channel. Daily videos.
That.
Do you have any idea how big of a decision this was for Grayscale?
How big of a decision is this on Grayscale? It's massive. This has been a years-long pursuit for Grayscale. Remember, it has been fighting the SEC's decision, and now it has the courts in their favor. If you look at the Grayscale Bitcoin Trust, this is the main entity that would face a conversion. This is one of the longest standing, largest trusts holding Bitcoin, in which retail and institutional investors have been able to gain exposure for many, many years now. You are looking at a discount to net asset value really narrowing here. At this very moment, it stands at about 24% under its net asset value, but that is expected to narrow as they get closer to the ETF conversion, which has really become a main thesis for investing in this fund. And beyond that, as you're saying, there is a whole host of other ETF filings in the pipeline, and this is boding well for those firms. I will also say that in addition to the Grayscale Bitcoin Trust finding some love on the heels of this decision, you are also seeing Bitcoin itself up above 27,000. It's almost 5% jump in the market right now, because the idea here is that by a potential conversion here for the Grayscale Bitcoin Trust into an ETF, it could draw massive adoption from financial advisors, retail investors. Think about how much money on the sidelines could be sitting there from the likes of the large wirehouses that could become more comfortable about putting their clients into a regulated ETF exposed to Bitcoin rather than spot Bitcoin itself.
So all this news today, it doesn't mean that this happened yet, but it means that something like this is closer to happening. A BlackRock Bitcoin spot ETF will get approved, maybe this year, maybe next year. And if not BlackRock, we have ARK, we have iShare, Bitwise, WisdomTree, Van Eck, Investco, Grayscale. I'm pretty unhappy with the way that Gary Gensler and the SEC has really been regulating crypto. They send enforcement actions first, and they provide regulatory clarity second. I mean, think about this. EOS raised $4.1 billion in an ICO in 2018. They settled with the SEC for $24 million. Profit $4 billion for EOS.
Jesus.
Impact Theory raised $30 million for an NFT collection. Settles with the SEC for $6 million. $24 million profit for Impact Theory. So,
no wonder they settled. I didn't know that. 6 million out of 30. That's crazy. They still benefited 24 million. That's wild. So the Bitcoin ETF, real quick in the chat. So Kazuma was saying, like, why would you buy Bitcoin right now? It's not about the price of Bitcoin. It's about the scarcity of it, right? So like when this happens, okay, the people smart enough to purchase their own Bitcoin and hold it are going to benefit the most. If you're investing into this ETF, right, it's like more people are going to do that, or the average Joe is going to do that because it's easier and there's a, you know, potential gain there for a lot of people. But at the end of the day, the rich get richer. You're not really holding the Bitcoin. It's just a spot Bitcoin ETF. It's not the actual coin in your wallet. Bitcoin's being held by BlackRock, Fidelity, all those companies, right? So if you're smart enough to hold it yourself and, you know, custody it in your safe or wherever you hold it, you're going to benefit the most, I believe. That's just my opinion anyways.
Offer unregistered securities in crypto, just give the SEC a cut, right? I'm so bullish on the entire space. Let me share with you a few metrics. Uniswap spot volume surpassed Coinbase in 2023. I believe this is the second year in a row that decentralized exchange Uniswap surpassed spot volume for Coinbase. OnlyFans bought 20 million of Ethereum as revenue surged. So now companies are buying Ethereum and Bitcoin. Pretty interesting. Speaking of Ethereum, take a look at these two bullish metrics. Ethereum on exchanges down to 14.7 million coins. Ethereum in staking contracts, 28.1 million coins, meaning almost twice as much ETH being staked versus Ethereum available to sell on exchanges. That's insane. Different tokens are expanding, upgrading, getting bigger and better. Polygon founder unveils massive upgrade plans coming to Matic token. And perhaps the second biggest news of the day, breaking news, X, or Twitter, obtained a license for crypto payments and trading.
This is huge news. It's very big news. If that starts being used or crypto payments are allowed on X, like they got the license to do so, Dogecoin, in my opinion, is probably going to blow up. It's his favorite. He said it's his favorite crypto. It's got very good economics behind it, and it was meant to be a joke. So Elon Musk loves it, right? So I just keep your eye on that, not financial advice. This is my opinion.
Yes, social media giant formerly known as Twitter could be poised to bring crypto payment services to its 450 million active users. The popular media platform X, formerly known as Twitter, has lined up its ducks to enable cryptocurrency payments through its platform. X acquired a Rhode Island currency transmitter license on August 28th, according to NMLS data. With this authorization, X may store, transfer, or exchange digital assets on its platform, as well as maintain those assets on behalf of others. X is now well poised to introduce crypto payment services to its nearly 450 million active users. The cryptocurrency market just keeps heating up. Subscribe to the channel. Daily videos keeping you informed. My name's Aaron, Altcoin Daily. See you tomorrow. Hey.
He's just going to talk about Bitcoin, whatever, the conference. But that's, I mean, guys, I don't think it's going to be a bad thing in any way, shape, or form for this whole thing to be approved. Bitcoin is inevitably going to rise. And this is kind of what I want to get into right now. So this, actually, you know what? Let's watch this first. So this is Bloomberg. What would the demand for a spot Bitcoin ETF be like? And then we'll get into Anthony Pomp kind of talking about the same exact thing, but he's got like a 10-minute video. So let's get into this real quick and see what they have to say.
Alex, Galaxy has done a lot of work on the idea of the floodgates opening at greater scale if a Bitcoin ETF were to finally be approved. What kind of interest would that draw into the system?
It's gonna be massive.
And at what point do we actually see that come to realization? Because it's not that we do see an ETF tomorrow. We just see a ruling today.
Yeah, thanks, Sonali. Hey, Kaylee. Thanks for having me back. I think it's clear that a regulated, transparent spot ETF would drive a lot of adoption. There are literally tons of types of investors that can't hold spot Bitcoin in the world. So it would give a safe and easy way for many people to access exposure to Bitcoin. I think the U.S. is clearly behind here. There are many major economies, not backwaters, like Brazil and Canada that already have these products. Galaxy has ETFs in those markets. And when you look at the maturity of the current, both the refilings and the new filings from firms like BlackRock and Fidelity and Invesco Galaxy, there are tons of really, powerful, safe and mature traditional issuers looking to get involved here. And I think that would really open this market up for institutional investors and just many who simply can't access these products because it's too hard to use, websites or hardware wallets.
Well, Claire, to bring you in here, we've heard a lot of that this would, unlock the gates, that you would see prices moving substantially. When we have seen really an absence in volatility and not a lot of liquidity in this market for some time now, can that really change that fast?
I mean, it's a good question. This summer has been quiet, if not boring. There's been essentially multi-year lows in both volume and volatility, and it's unclear yet if that's going to change. I was looking just at the volume data right before I'm on here, and I saw there has been a slight spike as prices increase, but ultimately it's still very low relative to what we were seeing during mini bull runs last year. So I think it remains to be seen. We need more capital in the space. We essentially need more traders to, I guess, engage on these platforms to really see a material change in crypto activity.
There it is. All right, let's get into Anthony Pomp. Grayscale just won its lawsuit with the SEC. I mean, obviously, big news. Full video is in the description below. Let's get into it. So if you guys don't know who Anthony Pomp is, he's like one of the most outspoken Bitcoin people of like all time. He's been like around forever, gets on news channels, talks about it. He's very educated in the space, so I really do value his opinion here, and he does have his own channel. Very smart guy. Again, go follow him. Links down in the description below. Let's see what he has to say.
Grayscale just won their lawsuit against the SEC. Here's everything you need to know.
Shit.
Now, first,
that was loud. I apologize.
Start with Grayscale. Grayscale launched a Bitcoin trust years ago, almost a decade, and since then, they have become the largest Bitcoin fund in the world. People all around the world that wanted Bitcoin exposure but didn't want to go buy it through the spot market could go on to one of the exchanges and they could buy the Bitcoin trust. But it's a trust. It is not a true ETF. The reason why is because historically, the SEC in the United States has not approved a Bitcoin spot ETF. And so the trust was kind of a workaround. It was a way for you to buy a public ticker and get exposure to Bitcoin without actually having Grayscale go to the SEC and get that approval. Now, in recent years, what we've seen is that fund became very, very large. Over $40 billion at one point sat inside that Bitcoin trust. Of course, Grayscale wants to convert it to a Bitcoin spot ETF. And so they went ahead and they applied. Converting a trust to an ETF, it's happened before, there's a process, and the SEC's got to approve it. But the SEC denied Grayscale's ability to go ahead and convert from a Bitcoin trust into a Bitcoin spot ETF. Around the same time, the SEC also approved multiple futures-based Bitcoin ETFs. So they weren't spot ETFs, but they were futures-based ETFs. Grayscale obviously was upset by this. They wanted to be the first to get that Bitcoin spot ETF into the US capital markets. And so they decided, in what was somewhat of a controversial move, to sue the SEC. Now, the SEC, not only did they not appreciate that Grayscale was disagreeing with them, they also probably didn't appreciate that Grayscale was suing them as well. But now, this is part of the beauty of America, is that we have both sides, the market participant in Grayscale and the SEC, the regulator, go into court and they lay out their arguments. And in doing so, what it allows for is it allows for the democratic capitalistic process of American courts, the legal system, to work itself out. And so now the SEC has been told, no, Grayscale is correct in this specific situation. This doesn't mean that the SEC is wrong all the time, and it doesn't mean that market participants are right all the time. But what it does mean is that both parties went into a court of law and they went ahead and they laid out all of their arguments, and the court decided that they are going to support what Grayscale is arguing. And so what that means is that the SEC now has to vacate the previous denial. They have to go back and they have to reevaluate the application to convert from a Bitcoin trust into a Bitcoin ETF. Now, that does not guarantee that the SEC is going to all of a sudden wave a magic wand and say that Grayscale, it has the Bitcoin spot ETF. Remember, there's many other applications that have been put forward, including kind of the elephant in the room, which is BlackRock. That elephant in the room of BlackRock is now competing with Grayscale. It's somewhat of a foot race to see who can be the first to get a Bitcoin spot ETF approved. Now, why does it matter whether you're the first or not? Well, being the first is actually really, really, really important, because what we've seen in the past, take, for example, the futures-based ETFs, the person who got out first, or the group that got out first, they're the ones who get most of the assets. And so when you look at Grayscale versus BlackRock, BlackRock has better distribution, BlackRock has a bigger name, and frankly, BlackRock has more trust in the institutional world than Grayscale or any other crypto-related asset manager. And so being able to get out into the market first would be a huge advantage for what some see as the David versus the Goliath. But if all of a sudden the SEC just said, you know what? Green light, everyone gets approved at the same time, then it really is going to come down to where do those assets flow.
For sure.
What we have seen over the years is that when an ETF gets approved and is able to capture assets, if there's a early winner in that category, usually the upstarts are not able to unseat who that winner is. And so getting out first into the market is really, really important, especially with an asset class like Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies, where there seems to be a bunch of pent-up demand, people waiting to allocate to the space, but there is no spot ETF. And so literally being the first pays off here. Now, the reason why it's important that the courts made this decision is we're leaving the world of opinions and kind of hot takes on the internet, and we're now getting into the courts. And the courts are able to decide what actually has to happen. They can enforce these rules. And so by saying to the SEC, you have to vacate that denial and go back and reevaluate, the SEC still retains the right to deny the conversion of Grayscale's Bitcoin Trust into a spot Bitcoin ETF for any other reason. They have a whole plethora of things that they could bring up and say, we are not going to approve this. But my guess is that that's unlikely to happen, right? We now have a court saying, hey, the reason that you gave initially is not sufficient enough. Right. You also have BlackRock coming in with the application. You have people like ARK Invest, 21 Shares, you have Bitwise, Invesco, the list goes on and on and on. And so my guess is that what's going to happen here is we're getting closer and closer. The odds have increased that a Bitcoin spot ETF is going to get approved in the United States. There's a report on Bloomberg today that says that actually a decision on the application for BlackRock could happen as soon as this week. Given the Grayscale decision, now all of a sudden it kind of puts a light onto this, and we're starting to see people say, okay, are we actually at the end? Are we at the point the Bitcoin spot ETF is going to get approved? I'm not sure, but it does feel like we are much closer today than we were yesterday. On top of that, there's a big question of how many assets would actually flow into a Bitcoin spot ETF. Some people think that it could be a couple $100 million. Some people think it could be tens of billions of dollars. My guess is that within the first 24 to 48 hours, there would be at least $1 billion that would flow into the Bitcoin spot ETF. And then within the first month to 3 months, I wouldn't be surprised if we saw over $10 billion flowing into that asset.
You guys just hear that? Did you hear that? Do you need me to play it again?
Tens of billions of dollars. My guess is that within the first 24 to 48 hours, there would be at least $1 billion that would flow into the Bitcoin spot ETF.
Which is
and then
lot.
within the first month to 3 months, I wouldn't be surprised if we saw over $10 billion flowing into that asset.
$10 billion. Could you imagine? Now,
why is that important? When you start to think about $1, $5, $10 billion. Some of these asset managers out here have $1 trillion plus. It's not that big. But what it does show you is when you look at the Bitcoin market, the Bitcoin market cap is about $500 billion. And so if you were to go and get $5 billion put into a Bitcoin spot ETF, that's 1% of the total market cap of the asset. And then when you start to look at, okay, well, what happens when it gets to 10 billion, 25 billion, 50 billion, $100 billion? If that's possible, now you start talking about anywhere between 10 to 20% of the total market cap. Now, obviously, Bitcoin's price is volatile. It'll move. And as more money comes in, it'll probably push the price up, given that Bitcoin is a finite asset. But it does begin to speak to the fact that there is going to be a catalyst now. When the Bitcoin spot ETF gets approved, that is a catalyst for the market. And what people have been saying is, look, the market's really illiquid. 70% of the Bitcoin in circulation hasn't moved in over a year. And so if you've got all this illiquidity in the market, you need some sort of catalyst, some sort of increase in demand in order to kickstart what is many people looking at kind of a potential increase in price in the future. And so maybe this Bitcoin spot ETF is that catalyst. If you have a Bitcoin spot ETF that gets approved, then in less than 1 year, you're going to have the Bitcoin halving, which means you're going to have a supply shock. This is a demand shock. This could be a rerun all over again of what we saw in 2020 when we had kind of a supply shock in the halving, and then we had a demand shock with all of the free money that was dropping from the sky getting put into the market. I don't know what's going to happen. No one has a crystal ball. But again, the decision today that Grayscale is going to prevail in this lawsuit against the SEC is definitely moving us one step closer to actually getting a Bitcoin spot ETF in the United States. BlackRock obviously has got to be excited about this as well, because it's putting more pressure on the situation in order to get someone approved so that American investors can now get access to that Bitcoin spot ETF. It's going to be really, really interesting to watch how this plays out through the rest of this week and in the coming months. So please pay attention. If you enjoyed this video, make sure that you go ahead and you subscribe.
Go check out Anthony Pomp. Again, his link is in the description below. All right, so real quick, Kazuma, yes, I understand what you're saying, right, with the whole you want to mine and keep things decentralized and blah, blah, blah. But at the end of the day, we're talking about the money coming into the market for the average Joe. Most people aren't going to own Bitcoin miners, right? And the average Joe, if you're at home with a USB miner or just some small miner doing 1 terahash on the network, realistically, the odds of you hitting a Bitcoin block are slim to none. You probably have a better chance of seeing God. You know what I mean? It's so slim, it's almost not worth doing. So if you take the $50 you spend in electric and say you put it into the market now while things are down, you're probably most likely going to benefit more. At least that's just my opinion. But I get your point with the whole decentralization and mining and stuff. And, you know, it makes sense, right? We want to keep it decentralized. I mean, Bitcoin can't be owned anyways. We don't know who created it, right? The guy, Satoshi Nakamoto, is anonymous, right? That makes sense. We can't take him to court, can't take his stuff. Like, that, it is what it is. But again, this is more about getting the word out there of crypto as a whole. So like, if Bitcoin goes up, the rest of the market typically travels with it, right? If people start getting a grasp of cryptocurrency, what is this? I remember finding out what it was back in 2017, 2018, and still wrapping your head around it. It's a lot to take in, right? People will start looking into it and it will push things forward for the entire market. You know what I mean? That's just my opinion. All right, let me see if there's any other questions in the chat. I don't think I have really too much more to show you guys. Let's see if there's anything. Let me see. If there's anything over on Cointelegraph. Let's see if we have any other news. If you guys have any questions, please feel free to ask away. I want to see if there's anything about Elon Musk accepting or getting the approval to accept crypto payments, or the license to do so, rather. Let's see. Right here, what's this? This is 7 days ago. Nope. I don't know what the hell that is. Hold on, let's see. Can I search on this site? Can we search? No. All right, here. X crypto payments. Nope. Let's see if I can find this on Google. Let's just see. Whoa. Didn't mean to do that. What the hell's that? X, formerly known as Twitter, has acquired a license required to provide cryptocurrency payments and trading services in the U.S. Per data displayed on the NMLS. The Rhode Island currency transmitter license was approved to X on August 28th, which was 2 days ago. This license is required to approve services related to digital assets on behalf of users, which is huge. This was posted 3 hours ago. Very, very big deal. BSC News. What is this? All right. X Twitter acquires license to add crypto payments. Yes, this is obviously pretty much what we just read. Let's see. What is this? So it's saying currency transmitter. Let me zoom in on this guy. Can't get any closer than that. But currency transmitter. Submit to regulator. Yes. Authorized to conduct business. Interesting. So yeah, it just says currency transmitter. Approved on the 28th. Nice. This whole thing was approved. That's great. Hell yeah. Good stuff. The acquisition of this license is a major step towards X's goal of becoming a cryptocurrency friendly platform. In the past, X has taken several steps to integrate cryptocurrency, such as adding a Bitcoin tipping feature and allowing users to set non-fungible tokens, NFTs, as profile pictures, rather. With this new license, X is now one step closer to allowing its users to send, receive, and store cryptocurrency directly on the platform. I don't know if I would do that. Don't store your cryptocurrency on the platform. But this could be a major boom for the crypto industry, as it would make it much easier for people to use cryptocurrency in their everyday lives. And that's a very good point, actually, because a lot of people use Twitter 24/7. I honestly can't stand it. It's full of drama and just aggravating, but is what it is. It remains to be seen what specific crypto payment features X will offer, but the acquisition of this license is a positive sign for the future of cryptocurrency on the platform. And we've already heard from Elon Musk. Again, his favorite crypto is Dogecoin. So I would not be surprised if Dogecoin is one of those coins that they accept on Twitter. And if that happens, I'm pumped, because Dogecoin's probably gonna explode. But again, not financial advice, just my opinion. Anyways, guys, everything is looking great in the market today. It has been almost an hour of us streaming, so I'm going to be getting out of here. But let's see if we have any questions. If you guys have anything left or anything to ask, please feel free to ask before we get out of here. Crypto Mining Insider, good morning. Good to see you, buddy. Let's see. Store your crypto on X. Just give Elon your private keys. Trust him. Yeah, I wouldn't do that. I definitely wouldn't do that. Yeah, it's gonna be a good step in the right direction for everybody as a whole, right? Cryptocurrency, in general, using it and stuff like that. It would be nice having some sort of off ramp that's not just crypto exchanges, being able to exchange your crypto between, you know, peer to peer like it's meant to be through X or Twitter, you know, formerly known as Twitter. It's going to be nice. I would like to see where it goes, but again, like, what are we purchasing or what are we sending money to each other for on X, right? Is it just kind of going to be like a PayPal, like, or a Venmo, like, or Cash App, like, here you go, send some crypto to my friends? Like, is that what it's going to be? Is that what they're planning on doing? Or is there going to be like sales of stuff and you purchase it with crypto through X? Do you guys know what I'm saying? So let me know if you guys know, because I have no idea. I'm assuming it's just meant to be a peer-to-peer type deal. Let's see. DCA dollar cost average. Yeah, this month, September coming up, is probably going to be one of the best months to DCA into it, because realistically, let me see. Is there a let me Google this real quick. The historical month chart of Bitcoin. Let me see if this is a good way to Google that. Images. Yes. Let me pull this up. Hold on. Let me see. Gotta get a good picture that I can like open up all the way. Open link in new tab. Let me see. Nope. Oh God, I hate that. Anyways, you guys kind of see this, right? Maybe. No. So September, out of the last, oh, it's only 2021. Damn it. Let me see. Monthly performance chart. So September, I mean, you can see it, right? This only goes to 2021, but you can kind of see. That one's blurry as shit. Of course it is. Why wouldn't it be blurry? I should have saved the image. I'm gonna save it, and we're gonna try to open it up. It's gonna open up on my, of course, over me. Nope. Hold on. Sorry, guys. There we go. All right. You can kind of see. This is only goes up to 2021, but historically, September has been like the shittiest month, right? There's only 2 green overall. September has just been trash, and it's only been up a little bit if it's green at all in September. So probably the best month to DCA on overall in general, at least in my opinion. Let me see if there's anything else in the chat. We can get paid our ad revenue in Doge. Oh, interesting. That's kind of cool. That's kind of cool. Dude would take everyone's crypto, then peace out to Mars. Yeah, maybe that could be it. All right, let me see what the poll said actually. What'd you guys say here? Why am I not full screen? Weird. All right, are you going to DCA into Bitcoin more in September? 44% of you guys said yes, 36% said no, and 20% said show results. That's very neat. Very neat. I hope you guys make a lot of money or Bitcoin on this DCAing and jumping back into crypto. It's a good time to buy, at least in my opinion. Very good news. All right, guys, hopefully you all have a good day. Happy hump day. It is Wednesday. 2 more days till the weekend. I'll be here bright and early tomorrow morning, and until next time, enjoy your day. Peace out. Smash that like on the way out. Peace.